Dear learners and listeners, Namaskar. I am Dr. Shweta and today we are going to talk about a very important period which is known as adolescence. Each one of us passes through a particular stage in life when we are caught unaware by the sudden changes in our body, when our elders do not let off go a single change to say that you are grown up but not grown enough to take decision. This statement must be quite familiar to you. The period of growing up to an adult from a child is known as adolescence. And it is a very important stage in the lifespan of human being because rapid physical as well as psychological changes take place during this stage. The literal meaning of adolescence is to grow up. This means accomplishing a number of developmental tasks. An adolescent has to adjust to the changes taking place in his or her body and behavior. He or she realizes that he or she is no longer a child but has not become an adult as well. What does the growing adolescent experience and feel? How does they cope with the bodily as well as the psychological changes? These are some of the questions that this program will help you to understand. So, the objectives of today's program are to describe the importance of adolescence, explain the psychological characteristics of adolescence, describe the physical and psychological changes during adolescence, enumerate the secondary sex characteristics of boys and girls, to know about the developmental tasks faced by the adolescents, and enumerate the problems faced by adolescents related to body and self, as well as indicate the relationship between the risk-taking characteristics of adolescents and substance abuse like STD, HIV/AIDS and premarital pregnancy. So, let us come up to the first objective, which is what is actually adolescence. The stage of adolescence is one of the significant stages of development in human beings, which helps in transition from childhood to adulthood. It starts from about 12 years of age and continues through 18 years. This stage is marked by rapid and significant physical and psychological transformation of the child, like maturation of the sex organs, which is known as puberty and transition, as well as there is increase in the height and weight also. Let us know about them in detail. During adolescence, significant increment is noted in the following 5 areas. These areas are: changes are seen in the height, the weight, the shoulder width, hip width as well as the muscle strength. That is, these are the 5 areas where during adolescence we develop. The changes during puberty are dramatic. Within a few years, the school-going child is transformed into a full-grown adult. These changes can be classified as hormonal changes, changes in body size and proportion, muscle fat makeup and internal changes, as well as the sexual maturation. As you can see in this picture, that how a child to an adult, where you can see the various physical changes that an adolescent has. Both boys and girls develop sex characteristics also during the adolescent period. These sex characteristics have been classified under the two conditions, which is the primary sex characteristics as well as the secondary sex characteristics. So, first of all, what are the primary sex characteristics? The primary sex characteristics includes the changes in body, that is the ovulation and menstruation among the girls, production of semen among the boys, and these primary sex characteristics are directly related to the reproductive capacity of both boys and girls. Whereas the secondary sex characteristics includes the development of breasts among the girls, beard among the boys, and growth of pubic and underarm hair and changes in voice among both boys and girls. So this was about the physical changes that happen during adolescence. But with growing age, the adolescent has to attain particular attitudes, habits and skills if he or she has to function effectively as an adult. These are called the developmental tasks of adolescents. Let us know in detail that what are the developmental tasks that are there during the adolescence. During infancy and childhood, for example, the developmental task includes learn to take the solid food, to achieve physiological stability and to form simple concepts of social and physical reality. During middle childhood, the tasks are to learn physical skills necessary for games, etc. That is, you can see in these two pictures that what are the developmental tasks during the early childhood, that is to learn to have solid food, which is one example, whereas in the middle adulthood, the developmental task is to acquire the capacity for physical skills that are needed for various tasks, say for example games. Now when we have discussed the developmental tasks for early childhood and middle childhood, let us know that what are the main developmental tasks for an adolescent. First of all, the main developmental task is accepting one's physique as it is and using the body effectively, because you might have seen that there are tremendous physical changes that are happening during the adolescent period. The second is to achieve new and more mature relationships with age mates of both the sexes, that is boys and girls. Next is to achieve a masculine or a feminine social role in the society. Another developmental task is to achieve the emotional independence from parents and other adults. That is, you have to depend on them as well as you have to become competent enough to take your own decisions. Like you can see that how our group and the society changes, as well as there is a behavior change in our personality when we grow up as an adolescent. Very important developmental task during adolescent includes preparing oneself to have economic independence through an enjoyable and productive career. You might have noticed that your parents keep on telling you that this is the only time when you have to prepare for your job. So please study or please concentrate on the work in hand, and keep in mind that your behavior should be productive so that it leads to a good career. The another developmental task which is for life is also included in the adolescent period, and this is preparing for marriage and family life as well. That is, this is the building block. Here from this stage only you have to make plans for your marriage as well as your family life with your behavior. Desiring and achieving socially responsible behavior is also the main developmental task of the adolescent period. Another most important developmental task of adolescents is to acquire a set of values and ethical system, because adolescent is a stage when the boys and girls are prone to go unethical. So this is how the society changes, the group changes, and this is you have to adopt to new situations and have mature relationship with the peer group around you. These were some of the physiological characteristics and the main developmental tasks of the adolescent period. Now let us know that what are the psychological characteristics of adolescent, because we have already talked about the physical changes. But let us know that what are the psychological changes that are taking place. These psychological changes appear in the areas of emotional, social, cognitive and moral development. Let us know how. During adolescence, the individual faces a wide range and variety of emotions. These include both positive, as you can see in the picture, as well as the negative emotions. Happiness is experienced as joy, exuberance, exhilaration, etc. with friends, family and other important persons, whereas sadness is experienced as depression, unhappiness, anxiety, fear, etc. Each of the above emotions that we have just discussed are felt intensely. In fact, the strength and intensity of adolescent emotion is one of their prominent characteristics. You might have seen boys and girls shouting at their parents. Adolescents tend to express everything in an exaggerated form. It is common to hear adolescents who express their liking for food as love, such as, "I love ice cream" or "I hate that person." That is how the emotion of love as well as hatred is experienced and expressed like this. Mood swings also occur quite frequently. Another prominent feature among the adolescents. Sometimes they are happy, sometimes sad. This makes their behavior somewhat unpredictable. Emotional experiences like crushes and infatuation also begin to surface during this period. That is, the attraction towards the opposite sex begins during the adolescent period only. Another important aspect of adolescent is known as the social development. As of now, we had discussed about the physical as well as the psychological changes that happen during the adolescent period. But there are certain social development also taking place during this period. In the social sphere, adolescent has to undergo a lot of changes in their interpersonal relationship, and now this is the period where they begin to understand society and its influences on their lives. During adolescence, you might have noticed that the peer group or the friends become much more important than the family. That is, it becomes so important that the adolescent want to spend most of their time with the family only. Being recognized as a popular member of the peer group is also an important need during the adolescent. The adolescent often get into argument with their parents and elders since they want to break away from the control. That is, they want independence during this period. Attraction towards members of the opposite sex, as has already been discussed, is another prominent characteristics of the adolescent. This is natural and occurs mainly because of the sexual maturity taking place among the adolescent. That is, this is related to the physiological development as well as the psychological development. The adolescent also begin to acquire their own beliefs, opinions and attitudes about the societies, and these all are based on their own understanding. They now begin to question who, how, what, why, where, when. Media becomes a very powerful source of influence as it provides adolescents with role models like film heroes, great athletes, etc., whom they emulate. As we can see in this picture, that how the media has an influence on the adolescent and they try to copy their role models from the television only. Another very important developmental task during the adolescent period is the cognitive development. That is, physical development, the psychological development, the social development already discussed, and after these developments there is another important aspect which is known as the cognitive development. As we all know, cognition is all your thought process and the reasoning skills. So, this time at this stage of life, the adolescent becomes more competent. They develop their capacity to think both inductively as well as deductively, and as we discussed in the earlier slides, that now they begin to question everything. Now try to understand the phenomena in the social world based on their own opinions and attitudes. The adolescent undergo significant changes. The another most important developmental task during adolescence is known as the moral development. As the name suggests, moral development is the firm ethical sense or an understanding of what is right and what is wrong. Now, the ideas are based not only on what the parents and elders have taught, but the ideas are now formed on the basis of what the adolescents are actually experiencing during this period of their life. These were some of the important developmental tasks that were happening during the adolescent period. Now let us understand that there are various adjustments that adolescent has to make up during this period. What are these adjustments and the coping with the adolescent problems? Basically, you have seen that adolescents face the problems which are related to their home, school and society. Say, for example, they have problems related to their body image. How do they look like? They want to look beautiful, attractive all the time. Because of the hormonal changes, they might get pimples. They have a complexion problem. Socioeconomic backgrounds becomes very important during this period. Poor marks also is an important factor during this period. Long school hours, gender bias, other orthodox practices, etc. are some of the problems that an adolescent is facing during this period. As already discussed, that the adolescent wants to look attractive all the time. That is one of the adjustments which they have to make up during this period. These were some of the problems that adolescents face at their home, society, etc. But there are very contemporary problems that are faced by the adolescents. Let us know about these problems. Number one is the major problem among adolescents is the substance abuse. As we all know, teenage substance abuse often has a lifelong consequences. What is substance abuse? When you totally start depending on alcohol and hard drugs to deal with the daily stress in order to reduce their effect and to take the responsible decision making skills. That is, you are not relying on your own self, but in order to escape from the problems, the adolescents start depending on the alcohol and other hard drugs to escape the problems. Sexually transmitted diseases. As we all know and discussed that there are various physical changes that are taking place and they have to be very cautious about using their body effectively. They have to be careful about it. But what happens? Teenagers are in the greatest danger of getting affected by these sexually transmitted diseases. The adolescent should be provided proper sex education in an effective manner if this has to be eradicated among the adolescents. Teenage pregnancy. Teenage pregnancy is another important problem which the adolescent face, and this happens because of lack of proper guidance from teachers and parents. Inappropriate effect of media, because we have already discussed in the earlier slides that media becomes a powerful tool or powerful source to influence the adolescents, as well as the wrong association in the peer groups also leads to this teenage pregnancy. The society and family can help in postponing early child bearing by expanding their educational, vocational and employment opportunities. That is, the society and family can tell the adolescents that preparing for a better life is more important at this time than getting involved in such activities. So these were all about that what are the various changes that take place during the adolescent period. Before we end up, let us now conclude that what we have discussed during the entire program. We discussed that the adolescent is a period of transition from childhood to adulthood, and this period is marked by rapid physical and psychological transformation. Reproductive capacity and sex characteristics are also developing during the adolescent phase only. The period during which the bodily changes occur to bring about sexual maturity is known as puberty. Some of the developmental tasks of adolescents that we have discussed are to achieve new and mature relationship with the classmates, to have appropriate masculine, feminine social roles, and to achieve emotional independence, etc. Psychological changes like the emotional development, cognitive and moral development also take place during the adolescent period. We also discussed that there are various common problems that adolescents face at the school level, family level, their own self and at the society level. And these problems can be dealt effectively by providing life skill and guidance and counseling to them so that they can have a smooth transition to adulthood. That is all we discussed in this program. I hope you have understood well about the various developmental tasks as well as the problems and how do the adolescent can cope up with the problems in this program. Thank you.
हिंदुस्तान के हर कोने में नौजवानों के पास प्रतिभा है, उन्हें अवसर चाहिए।
NIOS has been providing opportunities to youth for their development. Some of them have brought great laurels to the institute. With NIOS, many Divyang students have proved their strength. Join NIOS and make a difference.
पच्चीस साल का लंबा सफर और लाखों लोगों के चेहरों पर खिलती मुस्कान, गर्व और गरिमा से जीने की प्रेरणा देती मुस्कान, आत्मसम्मान और विश्वास से पैदा हुई मुस्कान। इन खिलते चेहरों पर ये मुस्कान आई है शिक्षा के जरिए। ये मुस्कान आई है नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग यानी NIOS के जरिए। नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग या राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान, इस संस्थान का एक बड़ा उद्देश्य है आम आदमियों के जीवन को बेहतर बनाना। ऐसे लोग जिनके लिए शिक्षा एक दूर का सपना है या वे बच्चे जो परिवार की रोजी रोटी कमाने के लिए बीच में ही स्कूल छोड़ने पर मजबूर हो जाते हैं। NIOS ऐसे बच्चों और बड़ों को दोबारा शिक्षा से जुड़ने का मौका मुहैया कराता है ताकि वे एक बेहतर जीवन जी सकें। 1989 में स्थापना के बाद NIOS ने देश के लाखों बच्चों और वयस्कों को बेहतर शिक्षा से जोड़ा है। इनमें हर उम्र, हर पृष्ठभूमि, हर जाति, हर मजहब और हर क्षेत्र के लड़के लड़कियां, महिलाएं और पुरुष शामिल हैं। बढ़ई से लेकर पायलट, डॉक्टर, इंजीनियर, बेकर और दर्जी तक NIOS कोशिश कर रहा है सबको शिक्षित और सशक्त बनाने की, चाहे वो असम के दूर दराज इलाके में रहने वाला हो या फिर मुंबई जैसे महानगर का। NIOS ने अपनी मौजूदगी हर जगह दर्ज कराई है। NIOS ने शिक्षा की परंपरागत सोच को ही बदल दिया है। वो पढ़िए जो हम पढ़ाते हैं की जगह NIOS की नई सोच है, हम वो पढ़ाते हैं जो आप पढ़ना चाहते हैं। इस नई सोच ने लोगों को आगे बढ़ने और NIOS के साथ जुड़ने के लिए प्रोत्साहित किया है। शिक्षा उपलब्ध कराने के मामले में NIOS किसी सीमा को नहीं मानता, उम्र की सीमा को भी नहीं। चंडीगढ़ के गणेश के लिए भी NIOS एक वरदान साबित हुआ। NIOS शारीरिक रूप से अक्षम बच्चों को भी बेहतर शिक्षा मुहैया कराने के लिए पूरी तरह प्रतिबद्ध है। ऐसे बच्चों के लिए शिक्षा न केवल रोजगार के द्वार खोलती है, बल्कि उन्हें आत्मविश्वास और गर्व के साथ जीना भी सिखाती है। NIOS खेल के इन सितारों को उनकी सुविधा और समय के अनुसार बेहतर शिक्षा उपलब्ध कराता है। मेरी कॉम, सोमदेव देववर्मन, देविका रेबेका पल्लिकल, अरमान इब्राहिम, प्रद्युमन प्रकाश और अमय जोत सिंह। NIOS सीमा पर खड़े उन प्रहरियों को भी शिक्षा से लाभान्वित करता है जो देश की सुरक्षा के लिए अपनी जान की बाजी लगाने से भी नहीं चूकते। सच तो ये है कि NIOS की पहुंच हर ओर रहती है, चाहे वो दूर दराज के आदिवासी हो या जेल की कोठरी में बंद कैदी या फिर ग्रामीण और शहरी क्षेत्रों के गरीब निवासी। देश में कहीं भी कोई भी व्यक्ति, स्त्री, पुरुष, लड़का, लड़की, अमीर, गरीब शिक्षा से वंचित न रहे। राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान का यही मिशन है।
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान पूरे देश में शिक्षा के साथ साथ कौशल विकास के क्षेत्र में बहुत सारे कोर्सेज दे रहा है। लगभग 100 से ज़्यादा कोर्सेज हैं। हम दूर दराज के गांव में अपने संस्थान बनाते हैं और वहाँ के बच्चों को, वहाँ के बच्चियों को, वहाँ के वयस्कों को हुनर के क्षेत्र में शिक्षा पहुँचाते हैं। आपको जानकर खुशी होगी कि अब हम आर्ट, साइंस, कॉमर्स जिन क्षेत्रों में 12वीं का सर्टिफिकेट दिया जाता रहा है, अब हम हुनर के क्षेत्र में, वोकेशनल एरिया में भी 10वीं और 12वीं का सर्टिफिकेशन करेंगे। तो वो बच्चे जो कृषि से जुड़े हुए हैं, कारपेंट्री से जुड़े हुए हैं या दूसरे क्षेत्रों से जुड़े हुए हैं, वो अपने ही क्षेत्र में काम करेंगे, सीखेंगे, हुनर पैदा करेंगे अपने में और सर्टिफाइड भी होंगे कि वो सर्टिफाइड कृषक हैं, खेतिहर हैं। तो आज तक जो हमारे देश में ये सोच रही है कि आप 12वीं पास तभी कहे जाएंगे जब भूगोल, अर्थशास्त्र, भौतिकी ये पढ़ेंगे, अब ये समय बदल गया है। ITI में जितने बच्चे पढ़ते हैं, लगभग 18 लाख बच्चे हर साल दाखिला लेते हैं। अब हम उनको सर्टिफिकेशन करेंगे।
NIOS अपने छात्रों को माध्यमिक स्तर पर 26 और उच्च माध्यमिक स्तर पर 19 विषयों का विकल्प देता है। पढ़ाई किस माध्यम से करनी है, इसमें भी आपको लचीलापन मिलेगा। माध्यमिक स्तर पर ही 7 भाषाओं के अलग अलग माध्यमों का विकल्प मौजूद है। शैक्षणिक कार्यक्रमों के अलावा 86 वोकेशनल शिक्षा कार्यक्रम भी उपलब्ध हैं, जो छात्रों को कामकाजी दुनिया के लिए तैयार करते हैं। वोकेशनल प्रशिक्षण को अधिक सुदृढ़ बनाने के लिए NIOS ने ITDC, सिस्को, इंडियन मेडिकल एसोसिएशन जैसे कई सरकारी और गैर सरकारी संस्थानों के साथ भागीदारी स्थापित की है। आज लाखों छात्रों के लिए अपनी पसंद का स्कूल है राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान यानी नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग। NIOS ने एक लंबा सफर तय किया है, लेकिन मंजिल अभी दूर है। निरंतर विकास और नवीनीकरण के लिए NIOS सदैव प्रतिबद्ध है। शिक्षा का उद्देश्य महज रोजगार जुटाना ही नहीं है, बल्कि स्वयं को सशक्त बनाना भी है। NIOS लाखों छात्रों के लिए यही आत्मसम्मान दिलाने में जुटा है। लाखों लोगों के लिए एक आशा और उम्मीद है। नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग। शिक्षा सबके लिए, कहीं भी, कभी भी।
हिंदुस्तान के हर कोने में नौजवानों के पास प्रतिभा है, उन्हें अवसर चाहिए।
NIOS has been providing opportunities to youth for their development. Some of them have brought great laurels to the institute. With NIOS, many Divyang students have proved their strength. Join NIOS and make a difference.
हिंदुस्तान के हर कोने में नौजवानों के पास प्रतिभा है, उन्हें अवसर चाहिए।
NIOS has been providing opportunities to youth for their development. Some of them have brought great laurels to the institute. With NIOS, many Divyang students have proved their strength. Join NIOS and make a difference.